This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to use the online SketchUp application to design your keychain to be 3D printed for club. First thing you need to do is be in Chrome, and properly to do this you really should be using a mouse, but if you don't have one, that's okay. I'll give you the keyboard commands too for the trackpad. We're going to start here by going to sketchup.com/app. We do this in club, so it should come up. When you go to sketchup.com/app, it'll have you log in with your Gmail and use your school ID. So log in with your school email through Google. It should take you to the home here once you've logged in for the first time. If you haven't, it'll have a little blue button that says Start Modeling, and it'll take you to a blank workspace. If it takes you here to the home area, you're going to click on Create New. It'll take you to a blank modeling space just like this. So one thing you're going to do here before you get started, we want to have a spot to save this, so if it does have an accident, we want to be able to pull it up. So we're going to click over here in the upper left where it says Untitled. You're going to click on SketchUp, and we're going to call this Keychain, and then save that. To get started, we're going to zoom a little closer to the dinosaur banjo guy, and we're going to click on him until he turns blue and delete him out with the backspace or the delete key. Now we have a blank workspace. We're going to be starting here at the origin. So we're going to make a rectangle for our keychain to start with. So we hit the R key. R for rectangle. You see it also highlights over here under the shapes. We want to hit the R key. We want to use keyboard shortcuts as much as possible. So what we're going to do here is go to the origin. So you see how we put the pencil tip there. We're going to click once and release. So click once and release. So we're not going to hold any buttons down. We're going to drag our mouse over to the side, but we're not holding the buttons. So we're going to make a rectangle that looks like this, goes this direction, and we're going to type in the measurements that we want, which is 3 inches by 3/4 of an inch. So if you look in the lower right-hand corner at the dimensions box, I'm going to start typing 3, and then comma, and then 0.75 for 3 by 3/4. I'm going to hit enter, and I made this really tiny box that you can't see. So we did 3, 0.75. Now to get to that easier, we're just going to do zoom extents, which is when you hold shift and tap Z. So hold shift, tap Z. It's going to zoom in, and this is where if you have the mouse, you're going to push down on your scroll wheel till that logo comes up, and you're going to orbit the camera as mine tried to leave the page. If you do not have the mouse, you are going to hit the O key. So you would have been on rectangle, you hit the O key, and you can drag with the trackpad that way as well. Okay, so once we have this, a rectangle here, we're going to pull it up into the thickness of our keychain first before we decide whatever else goes in here. So we're going to use the push-pull tool, which is the P key. And you see it highlights here on the side. It's this one that shows the box with an arrow, the P key. We're going to hover it over our rectangle so you see the blue dots appear. And just like before, we're going to click once and release. So we click once and release. Push your mouse forward and it goes up. If you pull it towards you, it goes down. We want to push up. And we're going to type in 1/8 of an inch. So it's 1/8. So 1/8, and you hit enter. And this is now 1/8 of an inch thick. So it's 3 inches long, 3/4 of an inch wide, and 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay? And I just like to hit the space key to go back to the select tool so we don't accidentally move anything we don't want to. Now, we're going to make one thing on here first. We're going to make the hole to go through the key ring first before we decide if we want this to be a rectangular keychain or one with 1 round end or 2 round ends. So first we're going to make our hole. To do that, we need to measure where it's going to go. So we're going to use the tape measure tool, which is the T key. So T for tape measure. That's also over here on this menu. Tape measure, we're going to find the center line this way, and then we're going to measure in a little bit. So to find the center line, what we're going to do is put the tape measure on this edge where it says on edge with the red square. We're going to click once and release and bring this dotted line along the green axis. So you see my green line there. To find the middle, it's really easy. I'm just going to put my cursor on this end and go till I find my blue midpoint, and I'm going to click. So now I have the midpoint of my rectangle. Okay, now you have to decide on whether you want the hole on the left side or the right side. It's up to you. I don't care. The measurements are the same. So we're going to do it from the right side on this one, just because you can do the exact same measurements over here. That's totally up to you. So we're going to put this tape measure on the short side of the block, again on the red. Click once and release, and we're going to drag it along the red axis. And we're going to go 5/16. So 5/16, 5/16, and hit enter. And then it gives us our little crosshairs here. That is where we're going to put our hole. So again, we found midpoint by clicking on the edge and then finding midpoint there, the blue dot. And then we went in 5/16. It could be to the right or to the left. That's completely up to you. To make the hole, we need to make a circle. So we're going to hit the C key for circle. C for circle. It's over here in the shapes right there. We're going to put it right on the cross section of the intersection there with the red X of our reference lines from our tape measure. We're going to make this 3/32 radius, so it's going to be a 3/16 hole. So we're going to click once and release, and then just start moving up one of the lines. We're going to type in 3/32. So we look in the lower right, 3/32, that's our radius, and hit enter. That's going to make a hole that across is 3/16 diameter. Okay, we've got that made. Now we're going to, just so we don't mess up something, we're going to erase these lines. Hit the E key or click the eraser up here in the corner. We're just going to click right in the middle of that and get rid of those. Okay, then what we're going to do, I'm going to orbit a little bit. So either you hold the mouse wheel or hit the O key and then click the trackpad if you wish to orbit around. We're going to need to be able to see the circle and the bottom edge of the block. We are going to use the push-pull tool again to get this hole taken out so we have a hole through the middle. So hit the P key again, P for push-pull. It's right here. We're going to highlight the circle, click once and release. And then we're going to touch our mouse to the bottom edge there. And now if you look, you orbit through there, you can see through the block, it's gone all the way through. Okay, pretty easy. I'm going to make a copy of this quick so we can save this part for when we do our parts here. So I'm going to triple click and then copy this and paste it up here. Right now I'm going to do just the rectangular. So if you want to do the rectangular keychain, we're going to keep that going right here. After that I will show the circular end or ends for the keychain up here. Now to do the rectangular, meaning it'll be this same size, what we're going to do is make a border around here. So we're going to hit the F key for offset. Offset is also in here under the push-pull menu. This is offset right here. What we're going to do is put our mouse on top so the top of this block highlights blue, and we're on the edge. We're going to click once and release, and then move inward. And we're going to go in a 1/16 of an inch. So we're going to type 1/16. Can you see that in the lower right-hand corner? 1/16, and hit enter. And now we have a border. Okay, with that then, what we can do is push-pull the center down to make that. So hit the P key again for push-pull, or it's in that same menu as offset, but it's the box with an arrow. Click once on that, and we're going to pull back toward you. We're going to go 1/16. It might snap in like mine did. Otherwise, just go 1/16 and go a 1/16 of an inch down. Now you can see we have our rectangle with a little dead space there in the middle. our hole, and then we have our border. Okay, at this point, we want to lock this in so that we don't change it too much. So we're going to triple click on this. So we'll click, click, click. So triple click. The whole thing turns blue. We're going to right click. If you have a mouse, you're going to right click. If you're just on the trackpad on your Chromebook, it's control click. So you hold control and click your trackpad. We're going to make this a group. So that way we don't change anything to this when we add our inner part here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we'll show you how to do this at the end, is we're going to add some text to this. But we won't do that quite yet. I'm going to show you how to make a rounded keychain. So we're moving up here. We have our other keychain blank, 3 inches long, 3/4 of an inch wide, 1/8 of an inch thick with our hole. To do the rounded portion, we have to make a tape measurement in from the end. So we hit the T for tape measure. You can do one end, you can do both ends. I'll show you how to do both. It's pretty easy. Just like before, we're going to go tape measure on this edge. Click once and release. Move it across the red. We're going to go 1/4 of an inch. So we're just going to do the decimal version of 0.25. So we've clicked and released and moved across the red. We're typing 0.25. 0.25 for 1/4 of an inch and hit enter. And that puts our line here. Don't worry about it going through the hole. That's okay. What we're going to do is hit the A key for arcs. It's over here on the menu. Now there's a bunch of different arcs. We want this one right here, the 2-point arc. That's what we want. So we are going to use this guideline and the edges of the block here as our reference mark. So we're going to put the spot right on the intersection. We're going to have to make 3 clicks. So we're going to click on this intersection, come over here and click on this intersection, and then we're going to come to this edge and click on the midpoint. So now we have an arc there. Once we have that, we're going to erase that tape measure. If you feel like doing it on the other end, I'll show you again. So you get on the edge, you click once and release. Now you see how this doesn't have the line, it just leaves this weird little spot. We don't want that because that won't come off. So we're going to Control Z and undo. Don't erase it, but Control Z and undo it. So we're going to go back on the edge. Now we have our dotted line. Again, we're going to go 0.25 for 1/4 of an inch. Hit the A for arcs and hit our intersection, intersection, midpoint. Okay, now we've got those where we want them. Now we're going to erase that again. And this is where we get to have a little bit of fun. We're going to push pull. You can see how I highlight over this. Push pull is the P key again. Highlight the corner. I'm going to click once and release. And then I'm going to touch the bottom of the block where it says on edge. And that corner disappears. I'm going to do the same thing here. If you want, you can orbit around the other side. Click and release and pull down. Click and release and pull down. Now we have a rounded keychain. Now we got to do the same thing. We have to do our offset and our outline, and then we'll add the details. So we hit F for offset. It's also in the same one as push-pull. We want offset. We're going to have it highlighted on top. Click the edge. Now if it does that with an automatic line, just Control Z and undo. Click the edge. Sometimes it likes to do that and be a little ornery. So sometimes you got, there we go. You got to move it. So we're going to go in a 1/16 of an inch again. So 1/16 and hit enter. And we have our border. We're going to push pull it again with the P key, going down a 1/16 of an inch, 1/16. And now we have this rounded. Now you maybe do rounded one end or square in the other end. That's completely up to you. It's your design. What we do want to do is make this an object just like that, or make it a group. So we're going to triple click this. So click, click, click. Whole thing turns blue. If you have a mouse, right click it and select make group. If you're using just the trackpad, control click and then click make group. Now this is solid. We can't mess it up by adding something to it, okay? So this is where you have to determine what direction you want your text or your writing to go, your words. Do you want the hole on the left? Do you want the hole on the right? That's completely up to you. I'm going to do it this way with the hole on the right this time. Again, does not matter. You just have to pick one and go with it. So to add some 3D graphics, as my mouse decides to freak out again, what we're going to do is come up here into the shapes where the circle is or the square was, and at the bottom there's 3D text. So we're going to click on that, and you first type in whatever you want to type. So let's say STEM. Maybe that's what I want to go with. Okay, now font, there's some basic text or font types that are in here. You can see the different variants of them. I could say the more plain ones will print a little easier, but I'm feeling ornery and want to go with STEM. Okay, so the height talks about how tall, like from the bottom of the letter to the top of the letter, as if you're writing it. So like how tall your line of paper would be. So the whole thing's 3/4 of an inch wide. We took off 1/8 of an inch board on each end, so it can only be at biggest 1/2 an inch. So we're just going to make that 0.5 for that. And then text extrusion is how tall is it going to be, like when you place it, how high is it going to stick out. So we're going to make that 1/16. Okay, just like that. Now the regular, we can't change much there. So we're going to leave it so it'll say STEM. It'll be 1/2 inch tall, and it'll be 1/16 of an inch thick when we put it on there. So you click OK. And you see there's my word there. We're going to put it so it says on face in group. And you can see how that is sitting right on the bottom, which is how we want it to be. Now what we can do is move that. But when you move it, of course, it just decided to do that. I apologize. Let it load up. This is my mouse not functioning properly. Reload my keychain. And yes, I'm leaving it in. So when you move it, what you need to do is make sure you grab the bottom. Just did it again. I think it's time for a new mouse for Mr. Radomski. This seems to be a pattern. What we need to do, as I'll use the trackpad this time, when you move it, we need to grab the bottom edge of it, the bottom of the surface. So you use the M key for move. It's also over here. There's move, orbit, and scale. We're going to move it with the M key, and I'm going to click this bottom little corner, this endpoint. I'll just use my keyboard here to eliminate any further oopsies from the mouse button acting up here, as I just did it again out of habit. All right, so cancel. There we go. So now that we've got that, I kind of moved it over to the corner because I want to make it a little bit bigger, but now I'm seeing it's too close to the wall because it's actually touching the wall. We don't want that. So I'm going to grab the corner, hit the M key, and move it again on the green axis just a little bit. Now I'm kind of snapping at the 1/16 of an inch, which is more than I wanted. So I'm actually going to type in 1/32 to adjust it so that it's closer kind of to the middle of where it's at there. Going to check it here, looking up. So I can go a little bit bigger, make those letters a little taller here. So what I'm going to do to stretch this word out and make it a little bigger is use the scale tool, which is the S key. S for scale. So you click on that and you've got all these points that we can drag on. Now I don't want to make it any taller. I don't want to make it any shorter. So I'm not going to grab my outside corner pieces. What I'm going to do is grab this middle one right here. It keeps the height the same and the thickness the same, but it could just move out in length. So I'm going to grab that and stretch it out a little ways. Okay, so it made it a little bit bigger. Maybe a little too big because it's touching the top now. So we're going to bring that down a little bit. Okay. Like I said, it's kind of wanting to be ornery a little bit. So it looks like I need to move it down this way now. So I'm just going to move. Now that I have it kind of in where I want it, I can click on the face and move it so long as I'm careful. So there we go. I've got my letters. Now you can put anything in there, your name, whatever, so long as it is school appropriate. Okay? You can adjust the height and thickness, everything the way I did. And what you're going to want to do then to help me out is once you have your text and your thing, they're separate things. So this was a group. We added text. We want to make that one big group so that I can 3D print it. If it's not one group, I can't print the file. It'll separate it out and only print either the words or the base, but not both. So what you need to do is click on the words. It'll turn in blue. And you hold the shift key, and then you click the base. While holding the shift key, it all turns blue. And then you right click or control click if you're using the trackpad and make a group. Now it's all one piece. Okay. Once you have that, make sure you save in the upper right. You should be saving probably after you make the base too. That'll be saved. Once you have that, what we'll do in our next meeting is go over that and show you guys how to send this file to me so that I can get it printed, because I have to export it from my desktop version of SketchUp in order to make it a file that the 3D printer can use. So when we meet, we'll talk about colors and material you can use, and then we'll get these printed. Good luck. Have fun. Let me know if you get stuck. Enjoy creating your keychain.